Throughout history, mankind has continued his quest for power many times at any cost. This power struggle can lead to murder and corruption. Men try to play God, taking their fate and the fate of others into their own hands. This struggle is depicted in literature ranging from Greek mythology to Shakespeare. Time and time again, these characters disobey the gods, often for power and wealth, and take matters into their own hands. In my paper, I argue that this twist of fate, no matter how small, ultimately leads to the character's demise. One of the more common scenarios is when a person, usually a main character who is important in society, receives a message from an oracle describing their future, and then proceeds to try and change their fate. The first example of this that I use is from Oedipus Rex. I point out two different people in this story that try to alter their destiny. The first is King Laius, who upon hearing, quote, he is doomed to perish by the hand of his own son, tries to get rid of his son. Several steps later, when Oedipus is a little older, he suspects that the king and queen are not actually his biological parents. To try and solve this mystery, Oedipus goes to see the Delphic oracle. The oracle tells Oedipus, quote, he should lie with his own mother, breed children from whom all men would turn their eyes, and that he should be his father's murderer. So this causes Oedipus to run away and eventually live out his destiny according to his and his father's prophecies. Next, I move on to several characters from Shakespeare. In Macbeth, Macbeth is told to be cautious of Macduff and to, quote, laugh to scorn the power of man, for none of woman born shall harm Macbeth. Macbeth takes these predictions to heart and targets his anger towards Macduff. Macbeth orders assassins to murder Macduff's family, but doesn't go after Macduff himself, assuming he is of woman born. His willingness to take so many lives made him feel immortal, and that not even God can control him or his destiny. It turns out that Macduff was born through cesarean section, so he is able to kill Macbeth. Had Macbeth just went on living his life and forgot about the witch's predictions, he would have probably been a lot happier. The other Shakespearean story I used was Hamlet. In Hamlet, Claudius, who is Hamlet's uncle, kills the current king to gain the throne and marry the queen. But by taking his destiny into his own hands, Claudius sets in motion his demise. Hamlet is not quick to act on his father's death. Still, his actions cause the untimely death of other characters in the book, and as punishment, he too perishes in the end. As Laertes says, he is justly served, it is a poison tempered by himself. Greed and power is a great motivator for many characters throughout literature, not just characters in Shakespearean tragedies. It is this pursuit of power that oftentimes leads characters astray. In J.R.R. Tolkien's trilogy, The Lord of the Rings, the reader learns about the Dark Lord Sauron, and how he forged a powerful ring to rule over everything. Over the course of the history of Middle-earth, there are characters that die in possession of the ring, or they die trying to obtain it. In my paper, I also include a reference to the Bible. In the book of Genesis, God warned Adam and Eve not to eat the fruit from the tree of knowledge in the Garden of Eden, saying, quote, you shall not eat it or even touch it, lest you die. Adam and Eve eventually disobeyed. This downfall made Adam and Eve sinners, and thus Christians believe that original sin is passed on from generation to generation. I also use examples of Greek literature, citing the stories of Odysseus, who suffered from the points of this paper several times, and Prometheus, who was a god who tampered with humans and ended up costing them the gift of fire from Zeus. Lastly, I used Mary Shelley's Frankenstein as an example of how humans should not try to play God, as that story did not end well for Victor Frankenstein, who created a monster that ended up killing Victor's friends and family. Throughout the course of literature, it is evident that many authors try to emphasize the importance of humility and grace. This point is proved time and time again when characters set out on their own, full of pride and desire for power. They are determined to change the course of fate, but by doing so they ultimately destroy their lives. From the Bible to mythology, characters defy God or the deities, evoking punishment and sometimes danger. Other times people play God, either creating life or destroying it, which also ends up costing them dearly. In each scenario, the outcome is never what the character intends, and it can be argued that perhaps the outcome is what the character deserves. What all of these storylines do have in common is this: the reader learns that accepting one's fate and living humbly seems to be the best recipe to leading a happy life.